The movie begins with the introduction of a young man named Grisha, the spoiled son of one of Russia's wealthiest businessmen. He spends his time indulging in wild parties, frequenting nightclubs, breaking rules, and harassing people without a care in the world. His arrogance knows no bounds, as he believes his wealth makes him untouchable. One night, after troubling a girl at a club, Grisha recklessly speeds down the streets in his luxury car. However, his fun is interrupted when a traffic officer pulls him over. As usual, Grisha arrogantly throws a wad of cash at the officer, expecting to be let go like always. But this officer isn't like the others. He refuses the bribe and insists on holding Grisha accountable. Annoyed, Grisha refuses to comply and instead steps on the gas, laughing as he speeds away. This time, however, his actions have serious consequences. The police manage to catch him, and he is thrown into jail. When his father, already exhausted by his son's behavior, arrives at the station with a police officer friend, he is met with grim news. The officer informs him that Grisha's reckless actions have gone too far. He dragged an officer with his car, leaving him hospitalized. "If you don't do something about your son now," the officer warns, "he's only going to get worse." Outside the station, Grisha's father angrily confronts him, but instead of remorse, Grisha remains indifferent. He even lights a cigarette in front of his father, fully convinced that as an only son, there will be no real consequences. Frustrated and at his wit's end, his father leaves. Determined to change his son, Grisha's father turns to his longtime friend Anastasia, a television producer. She introduces him to her acquaintance, Lev, an expert in horror movie set design. Lev is known for his ability to create immersive and realistic environments. When they visit Lev's home, they find him hanging from a rope, creating an eerie illusion. However, this is just one of his elaborate tricks. He even pretends to cut off his own thumb, revealing his mastery in special effects. Grisha's father shares his concerns about his son and asks Lev for help in teaching him a lesson. Lev, intrigued by the challenge, begins formulating a plan. One night, after yet another extravagant party, Grisha walks outside to find his luxury car being towed away. Panicking, he chases after the tow truck, but before he can reach it, a gunshot rings out from behind. Everything goes black. When Grisha regains consciousness, he finds himself in a horse stable, disoriented and confused. Before he can make sense of his surroundings, a rough-looking man storms in, drags him outside, and kicks him to the ground as if he were a mere servant. The man furiously accuses Grisha of failing to prepare the horses the previous night. Confused, Grisha protests, claiming he has never seen him before. Just then, a powerful figure enters the scene. Dmitri, the village's authoritative landlord. With a stern expression, he orders his son Alexei to hand over a whip. But instead of using it himself, Alexei gives it to another worker named Fyodor, who mercilessly lashes Grisha as punishment. Standing tall, Dmitri gives Grisha a chilling ultimatum. "By the time I finish my tea, my horse better be ready." Grisha realizes he is trapped in a place far removed from his world of luxury, where money holds no power and survival depends entirely on obedience. Grisha was completely baffled by what was happening to him. As the stablemaster, Artem, dragged him back inside, he demanded a phone call, insisting that once his father found out, he would make sure everyone paid for what they had done. Hearing this, Artem laughed mockingly. "Phone call? What's that? I don't know what you're talking about. Just get the horse ready or you'll taste the whip again," he warned. Grisha, realizing that no one here seemed to know about modern technology, grew more panicked. In desperation, he made a run for it, yelling for someone to call the police. As he ran through the village, he noticed something strange. Everything looked like it was straight out of the 18th century. The houses, the streets, the people, everything was completely outdated. It felt like he had somehow traveled back in time to an old Russian village. Determined to escape, Grisha kept running. But before he could get too far, the villagers caught him and dragged him back. His attempt to flee was seen as a crime, and now he was to be executed by hanging. With a noose around his neck and the villagers gathered to watch, Grisha was moments away from his supposed death. But just as the executioner was about to carry out the sentence, a young woman stepped in, Aglaya, the daughter of the village landlord. "Today is my birthday," she declared. "No one should be executed on my special day." Her father, the powerful landlord Dmitri, respected his daughter's wishes and called off the execution, sparing Grisha's life. As this intense scene unfolded in the village, a bird soared high above, watching everything from the sky. The bird then flew towards a hidden building just outside the village. But upon closer look, it wasn't a bird at all. It was a high-tech drone. This was when the truth was revealed. Grisha hadn't time traveled at all. This entire village was an elaborate setup created by his father to teach him a lesson. His father's friend, Anastasia, along with horror movie set designer Lev, had orchestrated the entire illusion. Every villager was an actor. The entire village was a massive movie set, and there were hidden cameras installed everywhere, tracking Grisha's every move. Through microphones, the actors received real-time instructions on how to react. To make sure things didn't go off track, a trained sniper was stationed nearby, ready to tranquilize Grisha if he ever became too aggressive or attempted to escape. Grisha's father had spared no expense in setting up this massive psychological experiment, determined to change his son's reckless and entitled ways. Meanwhile, Grisha, completely unaware of the deception, was convinced that he had somehow traveled back in time. His life had taken a drastic turn. Gone were the days of luxury and comfort. He was now forced to live the harsh life of a servant, sleeping on the cold ground, waking up before sunrise, and relieving himself in the wilderness instead of a modern bathroom. It was a nightmare for someone who had never experienced hardship. Little did he know, this was just the beginning. Inside the village, Grisha's new life was nothing short of miserable. The food was terrible, and any lack of discipline was met with harsh punishment. If he disobeyed, the whip was waiting for him. One day, while sitting alone in the fields, he heard the sound of someone crying. Curious, he followed the sound and found Aglaya, sitting in a secluded spot, sobbing. Concerned but still his usual arrogant self, Grisha asked what was wrong. Aglaya tearfully explained that her father had arranged her marriage to an old, wealthy man against her wishes. She was devastated by the decision. Hearing this, Grisha, with his usual smug attitude, laughed and said, "Well, that's not so bad. He's old, he'll probably die soon, and then you'll inherit all his wealth." Meanwhile, life in the village was testing Grisha's limits. Tired of eating bland vegetarian food, he secretly stole a chicken from the farm to make some soup for himself. Later, when one of his fellow stable workers asked for a share, Grisha casually shrugged and said, "Oh, I already ate it all." However, when the head stable master, Fedya FD, discovered that a chicken was missing, he gathered all the stable workers and demanded to know who had stolen it. Seeing no one confess, FD grabbed one of the workers, Grisha's friend, and dragged him away for punishment. Yet, despite witnessing this, Grisha remained silent, showing no sign of concern for his friend's suffering. He was still the same selfish person, only looking out for himself. Later, his friend returned and showed him the red whip marks on his back. But what Grisha didn't realize was that these marks weren't real. They were just expertly applied makeup, another part of the elaborate illusion created to reform him. Sometime later, while working near the stables, Grisha saw a young woman dismounting a horse, but as she moved, something unusual caught his eye: her underwear. He froze for a moment, puzzled. How does she have modern underwear? This is supposed to be the 1860s. The realization sent his mind spinning. Rushing toward the girl, he blurted out, "Where did you get those? Show me your underwear." Startled and embarrassed, the girl quickly mounted her horse and galloped away. But before Grisha could chase after her, several villagers, all actors in disguise, arrived, blocking his way. Meanwhile, in the control room, Grisha's father was watching everything unfold. Seeing that his son was still behaving inappropriately, still harassing women, and still refusing to change, he turned to Lev and Anastasia and firmly stated, "Shut it down. This isn't working." At that moment, they realized maybe Grisha was beyond saving. Seeing a shift in Grisha's behavior, the control room operators noticed something unexpected. He wanted to apologize to Liza. Recognizing this as a positive sign of emotional growth, they instructed Liza to meet with him. When Liza approached, Grisha sincerely said, "I'm sorry." Liza, though initially surprised, accepted his apology. A few days later, the village prepared for a grand festival. According to tradition, if a man and a woman spent the festival night together, they would be considered lifelong partners. That evening, Grisha encountered Aglaya, who seemed deeply distressed. With her arranged marriage to the old nobleman fast approaching, she was on the verge of breaking down. In a fit of despair, she muttered, "I'd rather throw myself into the river than marry him," and then began walking toward the water. The directors in the control room wanted to see Grisha's sense of empathy develop further. Their plan was for him to rush after Aglaya, save her, and prove that he was capable of compassion. But to their disappointment, Grisha didn't follow Aglaya. Instead, he turned away and walked toward Liza, sitting beside her. He casually told her, "You know, I'm actually from the future. There's so much incredible technology there, things you wouldn't even believe." Meanwhile, Liza's friend overheard their conversation and quickly intervened. Aglaya just ran toward the river. At that moment, Grisha's mind replayed Aglaya's words, her threat to end her life. Realizing the gravity of the situation, he leaped to his feet and sprinted toward the river. When he arrived, he saw Aglaya standing at the riverbank, gazing at the dark water below. Without a second thought, he grabbed her before she could jump. Breathing heavily, Aglaya looked at him with tear-filled eyes. "Why did you save me?" she asked. "I don't want to live a life trapped in a marriage I never wanted." But instead of agreeing to run away with her, Grisha simply escorted her back home. When they reached her house, Aglaya attempted to get closer to him, but for the first time in his life, Grisha showed restraint. Without making a move, he stepped back and walked away. The control room operators watched in stunned silence. This was completely unlike the Grisha they had known, a spoiled, reckless playboy who never missed an opportunity for pleasure. Confused by his actions, they scrambled to figure out where he had gone. Instead of staying with Aglaya, Grisha had gone looking for someone else. "Where does Liza live?" he asked a villager. "I need to see her." Hearing this, the directors quickly sent instructions to Liza. "Grisha is coming to see you. Get ready." As soon as everyone gets ready, Grisha arrives and asks Lisa to go on a walk with him and spend the entire night at the festival. There's a legend that says whoever spends this night together becomes partners. However, Lisa declines, saying her father's health isn't good, so she can't go. Hearing this, Grisha gets upset. The next day, the director informs Lisa that Grisha's interest in Aglaya has shifted, and he is now interested in her. Therefore, Lisa will have to pretend to be in love with him. However, Lisa's new role doesn't sit well with her boyfriend, Alexei, who is playing the role of the landowner's son here. Lisa explains to him that they've come to make Grisha a better person, and everyone's cooperation can make this project successful. Over time, Grisha starts spending more and more time with Lisa, and their bond grows stronger. Gradually, Grisha falls in love with Lisa. One afternoon, while they are walking around the village, they notice a bird flying strangely in the sky. Lisa knows it's a drone, so she tries to distract Grisha. In the control room, Anastasia instructs the sniper to shoot down the drone if anything goes wrong. However, after a while, the drone starts functioning properly and flies normally again. Meanwhile, Alexei and Aglaya are both furious. Alexei is upset because his girlfriend Lisa has to act romantic with Grisha, and Aglaya is angry because she has been replaced by Lisa. The two of them start getting intimate, but just then, Grisha and Lisa arrive. Lisa is deeply hurt to see her boyfriend with another girl like this. The director scolds Aglaya and Alexei harshly, reminding them that their roles were supposed to be brother and sister, and they should have at least maintained that on set. In his anger, the director fires both of them. Meanwhile, Lisa is deeply saddened by her boyfriend's behavior, and Grisha tries to comfort her. He prepares a candlelight dinner for her, and the two sit together to eat. After dinner, Grisha tells Lisa, "If you're ready, I want to marry you." After thinking for a while, Lisa agrees, and the two start kissing. In the control room, there's an atmosphere of joy because, for the first time, Grisha has shown emotions of care and love. On the other hand, we see Aglaya, who has been removed from the show. Meanwhile, Aglaya goes on a TV show and gives an interview, claiming that Grisha, the son of Russia's richest man, has been kidnapped and is being held as a slave. The Russian police take this matter very seriously and launch an investigation into the kidnapping case. On the other hand, Grisha's father panics and orders everyone to shut everything down and leave immediately. However, the director insists that it will take time for the investigation to reach them, and by then, they can move the entire setup to a safer location. They decide to stage a Mongol attack on the village. When the Mongols arrive, the villagers offer them food, but the Mongols also want to take some girls with them. As they select a girl from the crowd, her father pleads with the Mongol leader, begging for her release. The Mongol leader gives him a fair chance, saying, "You must fight one of our soldiers. If you win, your daughter will be freed." A fierce WWE-style fight breaks out between the father and the Mongol soldier. Both are skilled stuntmen, quickly prepared by the director. The fight is intense, but the Mongol soldier ultimately beheads the father, though it's all staged. Witnessing the father's sacrifice, the Mongols release the girl, but take another girl with them instead. This second girl is none other than Lisa. At this point, there's no one to fight for Lisa. Grisha's friend confronts him, asking, "Won't you protect the one you love?" Hearing this, Grisha becomes confused and starts trembling with fear. Everyone is shocked, as they believed Grisha deeply loved Lisa. Even in the control room, there's disappointment. Lisa calls out to Grisha for help, but he doesn't respond and walks away. However, moments later, Grisha returns on horseback. He engages in a fierce battle with the Mongols, rescues Lisa, and rides away with her on the horse. Just after Grisha leaves, the police arrive at the scene. The director explains to the police that a movie shoot was taking place there. Hearing this, the police can't do much and quietly leave the scene. Meanwhile, Grisha and Lisa ride away on horseback, crossing the village border. As they move further, Grisha spots a modern petrol pump, which leaves him utterly confused. Lisa is about to reveal the truth to Grisha when a sniper shoots him with a tranquilizer gun, knocking him unconscious. The next day, Grisha wakes up in a hospital. His father informs him that he had been in a coma for 3 months following an accident and has just regained consciousness. Grisha tries to return to his old life, driving his luxury car and visiting nightclubs, but he finds no joy in it. The thrill he once felt is gone. Realizing his mistakes, he decides to give his luxury car to the traffic police officer who had helped him during the accident. One day, at a nightclub, Grisha runs into Aglaya and Alexei. He asks them about Lisa, and they finally reveal the truth about the entire village setup and the project. They take him to Lisa. Grisha confesses to Lisa that everything he had said to her was true and that he still loves her deeply. Lisa, in turn, admits that she loves him too. The two share a heartfelt kiss. A few days later, Grisha's father marries Anastasia. Grisha thanks his father for making him a better person and hugs him, acknowledging how this crazy project helped reform him. the spoiled son of a rich man. The movie Son of the Rich ends on this touching note. Friends, we'll keep bringing you interesting movie explanations like this, so make sure to subscribe to the channel, like, and comment. Thank you.